Chapter 10 Echoing Footsteps London, July 1789. Dr. Manet's house. Paris, the same time, Duvar's wine shop, and the Bastille. A wonderful corner for echoes. It has been remarked that corner where the doctor lived. Lucy was ever busy winding the invisible golden thread which bound her husband, her father, and her old companion in a life of quiet happiness. She sat in the quiet house listening to the echoing footsteps of years. At first, there were times, though she was a perfectly happy young wife, when her work would slowly fall from her hands and her eyes would be dimmed, for there was something coming in the echoes, something light, far off, and hard to hear that stirred her heart too much. The echoes rarely answered the actual footsteps of Sydney Carton. Some half-dozen times a year at most he came, as agreed with Charles Darnay, uninvited, and sat with them through the evening, as he had once done often. To these echoes, Lucy, sometimes thoughtful, sometimes amused and laughing, listened in the echoing corner until her little daughter was 6 years old. How near to her heart the echoes of her child's footsteps came, and those of her own dear father's, always active, always self-possessed, and those of her dear husband need not to be told. But there were other echoes from a distance which rumbled like threatening thunder all through this time, and it was now about little Lucy's 6th birthday that they began to have an awful sound, as of a great storm in France with a terrible sea rising. On a night in mid-July 1789, Mr. Lorry came late from Tellson's and sat himself down by Lucy and her husband near the dark window. It was a hot, wild night, and they were all three reminded of the old Sunday night when they had looked at the lightning from the same place. "I began to think," said Mr. Lorry, "that I would have to pass the night at Tellson's. We have been so full of business all day that we haven't known what to do first or which way to turn. There is such uneasiness in Paris that our customers over there seem not to be able to entrust their property to us fast enough." "That has a bad look," said Darnay. "A bad look, you say, my dear Darnay?" "Yes, but we don't know what reason there is in it." "Still," said Darnay, "you know how gloomy and threatening the sky is." "I know that, to be sure," agreed Mr. Lorry. "But where is Manet?" "Here he is," said the doctor, entering the dark room at that moment. "I am glad you are at home," said Mr. Lorry, "for these worries that have surrounded me all day long have made me nervous without reason. You aren't going out, I hope?" "No, I am going to play backgammon with you, if you like," said the doctor. "I don't think I do like. If I may speak my mind, I am not fit to play against you tonight. Is the tea still there, Lucy?" "Thank you. Now come and take your place in the circle, and let us be quiet and hear the echoes about which you have your ideas." "Not ideas, just imaginings." "Imaginings, then, my wise dear," said Mr. Lorry, patting her hand. "They are very numerous and very loud, though, are they not? Only hear them. Headlong, mad, and dangerous were the footsteps raging far off in Saint Antoine, as the little circle sat in the dark London window. Saint Antoine had that morning been a vast shadowy mass of scarecrows, heaving to and fro with frequent gleams of light above the people's heads, where steel blades and bayonets shone in the sun. A huge roar rose from the throat of Saint Antoine, and a forest of naked arms struggled in the air like branches of dead trees in a winter wind. All the fingers clutching at every weapon or what seemed like a weapon that was thrown up from the depths below. Who gave them out? Where they came from? No eye in the crowd could have told what guns were being disturbed, and so were powder and balls, bars of iron and wood, knives, axes, pikes, every possible weapon. People who could lay hold of nothing else set themselves with bleeding hands to forcing stones and bricks out of their places in walls. As a whirlpool has a center point, so all this raging circled around the Vosges wine shop, and every human drop tended to be sucked towards the center where the Vosges himself, already covered in gunpowder and sweat, gave orders, gave out weapons, worked without pausing in the heart of the uproar. Keep near to me, Jack 3, cried the Vosges, and you, Jack 1 and 2, separate and put yourselves at the head of as many of these patriots as you can. Where is my wife? Well, here you see me, said Madame, calm as ever but not knitting today. Madame's determined right hand held an axe in place of the usual softer tools, and in the belt around her waist she had a pistol and a cruel knife. Where are you going, wife? I am going, said Madame, with you at present, but soon you will see me at the head of women. Come then, cried the Vosges in a loud voice. Patriots, friends, we are ready. The Bastille, with a roar, the living sea arose, wave on wave, and overflowed the city towards that place, alarm bells ringing, drums beating, the sea raging and thundering on its new beach. The attack began. Deep ditches, a double drawbridge, massive stone walls, 8 great towers, cannons, guns, fire and smoke. Through the fire and through the smoke, the Vosges of the wine shop worked like a manful soldier. 2 fierce hours. The sea threw him up against a cannon, and on the instant he became a gunner. Deep ditches, single drawbridge, massive stone walls, 8 great towers, cannons, guns, fire and smoke. 1 drawbridge down. Work, comrades all, work, work. Jack 1, Jack 2, Jack 1000, Jack 2000, Jack 5 and 20,000. In the name of all the angels and devils that you prefer, work. This is what the Vosges spoke, still at his gun, which had long grown hot. To me, women, cried Madame his wife, we can kill as well as the men when the place is taken. Cannons, guns, fire and smoke, but still the deep ditches, the single drawbridge, the massive stone walls and the 8 great towers. A slight movement of the raging sea made by the falling wounded. Flashing weapons, screams, shots, curses, bravery, and the furious sound of the living sea. And still the Vosges of the wine shop is at his gun ground, doubly hot by the service of 4 fierce hours. A white flag from within the fortress, and suddenly the sea rose wider and higher and swept the Vosges over the lowered drawbridge, past the massive stone outer walls, and in among the 8 great towers surrounded. The force of the sea couldn't be resisted and made it impossible for him to breathe or turn his head until at last he landed in the outer courtyard of the Bastille. There against an angel of a wall, he made a struggle to look about him. Jack 3 was nearly at his side. Madame de Vosges, still heading some of her women, was to be seen in the near distance, her knife in her hand. Everywhere was noise and confusion. The prisoners, the records, the secret cells, the instruments of torture. Of all these cries, the prisoners was the cry most taken up by the sea that rushed in. When the first waves of the crowd had passed, Defarge laid his strong hand on one of the prison officers, a man with a grey head, and a lighted torch in his hand, separated him from the rest and got him between himself and the wall. "What is the meaning of 105 North Tower?" asked Defarge. "Quick, monsieur, it's a cell." "Show it to me." Through the gloomy passageways where the light of the day had never shone, past ugly doors, down flights of steps, and up steep stone staircases, Defarge, the prison officer, and Jack 3 went with all the speed they could make. The prison officer stopped at a low door, put a key in the lock, swung the door slowly open, and said as they all bent their heads and passed in, 105 North Tower. There was a small window high in the wall with heavy bars and a stone screen so that the sky could only be seen by bending low and looking up. There was a small chimney, there was a stool and a table, and a small straw bed. There were 4 blackened walls and an iron ring in one of them. "Pass that torch slowly along these walls, that I may see them," said Defarge to the prison officer. The man obeyed, and Defarge followed the light closely with his eyes. "Stop! Look here, Jack." "A.M.," said Jack 3. "Alexander Manet," said Defarge. "What is that in your hand? A crowbar? Give it to me." He exchanged his gun for the crowbar and then smashed the worm-eaten stool and table to pieces in a few blows. "Hold the light higher," he said angrily to the prison officer. "Look among those pieces of wood with care, Jack. And see, here is my knife," he said, throwing it to him. "Cut open that bed and search the straw. Hold the light here, you." With a threatening look at the prison officer, Defarge looked up the chimney and struck its sides with the crowbar and worked at the heavy iron bars. Across it, in a few minutes, some cement and dust came dropping down, and in a hole in the chimney which his crowbar had made, he felt with his hands carefully. "Nothing in the wood and nothing in the straw, Jack, nothing." "Let us collect them together in the middle of the cell and set fire to them, so light them, you." The officer set fire to the little pile, which blazed high and hot. Bending down again to come out of the low door, they left it burning and went back to the courtyard and into the raging flood once more. They found that the crowd was searching for Defarge himself. Saint Antoine wanted its wine shop keeper to lead them to the governor, who had defended the Bastille and shot the people. If not, the governor wouldn't be taken to the city hall for judgment. 7 prisoners released, 7 bloody heads on spears, the keys of the hated fortress. Some discovered letters and other memorials of prisoners long dead of broken hearts. The loudly echoing footsteps of Saint Antoine escorted through the streets of Paris in mid-July 1789. Now heaven defeat the imaginings of Lucy Darnay and keep these footsteps far out of her life, for they are headlong, mad, and dangerous, and in the years so long after the breaking of the barrel at Defarge's wine shop door, they aren't easily made clean when once stained red.